Hi everyone, hope you're doing well. Welcome to a new DFAM video. Last time I talked about how to make techno kick drum with the DFAM, and today we're gonna focus more on bassline and bass type sound with some FMs. And yeah, let's get into it. So I've got my DFAM here. It's synced with Ableton. I use the CV clock out to synchronize the DFAM. I set pretty much everything by default, like at the minimum or at 12 o'clock. All my VCO level are down, so this way you can just do how I done, all the velocity at the minimum, and the pitch I try to do like at 12 o'clock. The envelope is on slow, I'm gonna put it fast. And yeah, let's get started. So the first type of sound I wanted to make, it's some kind of glide bass line. So we're gonna create a kind of a basic bass line, but we're gonna try to emulate this glide effect to give this pitch modulation, you know, this kind of pitch bend modulation at the beginning of the note, which is gonna give interesting movement to your bass sound. So one thing important is the pattern. I'm gonna show you a pattern in terms of velocity that usually work. In terms of pitch, obviously, you might have to experiment you a little bit until you find something you like. So I'm just gonna launch Ableton. It's gonna launch my sequence. So here you don't hear nothing. We're gonna use VCO2 on the triangle. Maybe add a bit more decay. And we're gonna do, this one is gonna be off. And then we're gonna use on. So velocity to the maximum. Off, off. Then on. Off. And then on again. So this way we have something a little bit spaced. Like this, we're gonna have time for the pitch modulation to be heard. One thing you can do is maybe bring a little bit of decay up. You can bring down the cutoff. Maybe the VCO frequency. This depends on your kick drum as well. Maybe something like that. So like I said, the idea is to kind of emulate a glide, and we're gonna do that by using the pitch envelope, and we're gonna modulate the pitch of VCO2. So we're gonna use the VCO2 egg amount and the VCO decay. So this is the amount of pitch modulation you want, and this is the length of your pitch envelope, or let's say maybe more the speed. So for that, I think we're gonna stop the sequencer and maybe go on the step you can hear. And we're gonna apply the pitch negatively. So like this is gonna, you can hear it's creating this drone. And we're gonna stay here for now, and we're gonna bring up the VCO decay and chill. You can hear it's kind of getting slower, the pitch modulation. Usually this works well with your sequence, so we're gonna hear now back, we're gonna put back the sequence and sync with Ableton up. So now we have something like this. So we're gonna put the VCA in slow, because obviously like this is a smoother attack. Longer decay. We're gonna bring down the cutoff anyway, because we don't want this very high frequency. And I think now we need to put the kick maybe. And we're gonna experiment with VCO2. And maybe with the kick drum. So obviously there is always a bit of tweaking, but you get this nice pitch modulation at the beginning. Alright, so our next type of bass is gonna be some kind of FM bass, and by default the DFAM have FM modulation with VCO1 modulating VCO2 that you can control the amount here. You can obviously patch it differently, but we're gonna use this default. And there is one thing to be careful is how you set your sequencer pitch modulation, because here it's in VCO1 and 2, which means that our pitch sequencer will modulate VCO1. And sometimes you don't want that, because with FM modulation, you know that just a slight change will alter a lot of your FM sound. And for example, let's say you find a nice FM sound with the VCO1 and the amount, which work for one step, but then when you play the sequence, obviously each step will have a pitch difference, so your FM modulation is going to be different for each step, and you can result on something not really nice. So if you want something constant, you need to bypass the sequencing of the pitch on the VCO1. So you can do that either by putting the switch on off. This way neither VCO2 or VCO1 have pitch modulation, or you can put just the sequencing of the pitch on VCO2, and that's what we're gonna do first. So this way we can still have our baseline in terms of notes and pitch modulation, but like this we can also use our VCO1 in a more constant way. We can manually set, okay, I want my FM to be this way, and you know that it's not gonna be altered by the pitch sequencer. So in terms of sequencing for the velocity, we're gonna go on, off, and when we're gonna go on, off, and on. This way we get something like this. But because we're gonna work with FM and the tone of the FM, it's better to stop at one step first and try to work on our FM until we get something cool. So here obviously it's a lot of trial and error again, you know, until you find the tone you want. So we can already start to add some modulation. So you can hear there is this kind of vibrato, and if you put not too much amount and reduce the frequency of VCO1, it kind of acts like an LFO. And you kind of have this vibrato. And that can be nice, for example, if you do some more weird melodic hypnotic sequence. That can be an interesting way to add a bit of this pitch modulation, which is gonna add a bit more character to your sound. If you, instead of having something flat like this, you can add a bit of excitement. Obviously, if you crank up too much and you go in a very fast frequency, so if you kind of have a fast LFO, you kind of create a proper FM where you get this metallic tone. And then you have to be very gentle and very subtle until you find the tone you want. So that's why it's important to deactivate the sequencer pitch on the VCO1. Oh, that's not bad. Okay, that's interesting. So obviously we don't really have a bass sound, so to speak. And I'm gonna modify VCO2, but it's gonna probably alter the FM sound. So yeah, I'm gonna keep like this. It's not really a best sound anymore, but one thing you can do, which is gonna be interesting, is bring down the cutoff. And then you want to modulate it, make it open very fast, just to get this nice harmonic that you generate with the FM, just on the transient. All right, one thing, let's see how it's sound within the sequence. So we need to bring back our run stop. All right, next one, we're gonna do some kind of FM stab. So here we don't want the pitch sequencer to affect neither the pitch of VCO2 or VCO1. So we're gonna put it to off. This way it will always play the same note, no matter what the pitch position is. So the pattern for this one, we're gonna do off, on, off, off, on, off, on, off. This way we get something like this. Okay, let me advance to this step. So you could hear the sequencer pitch didn't affect the pitch. The only thing will affect is mid any changing. Here again, we are just using VCO2 because we're gonna use VCO1 to modulate again VCO2 with the FM. So here again, yeah. You can use some FM, but here what we're gonna do as well, we're gonna use the artsync on, which means that VCO2 phase gonna follow the phase of VCO1, and you just have to be sure that the VCO2 frequency is superior at VCO1. And like this, you can get really nice tones. So again, it's up to you to experiment. I like to do the same trick with the cutoff. Bring it down. Having the long decay. So now the thing is, what's gonna happen is gonna be pretty straightforward, as there is no pitch, barely the velocity. But what we can do is maybe using this pitch sequencer to modulate a parameter in order to add movement to your sound. So there is different possibility. You can either modulate the FM amount. You could see like when I was modulating it, it's kind of changed the tone. Or you can modulate the filter, or one thing you can do modulate is the decay. Or a little bit of everything. This is really up to you. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use the pitch. And let's start with maybe the decay, so VCF decay. And here we're gonna open. Here are the steps where there is no nothing. And maybe we can use another cable to try to modulate the FM amount. Let's see how it sounds. Okay, a bit crazy. Let's try with the velocity. No, neither. So I'm gonna leave it this idea, but and this again with a bit of effect in Ableton. And then obviously you can change your Alright, and that's pretty much it for today. I hope you learned a few tricks here and there. I hope this video was helpful. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and see you soon, guys. Bye bye.